Hi everybody, it's Dr. Drake 63 here again. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the current and perhaps future state of the import of semi-automatic arms such as the AK-47, AK-74, AKM platforms that are produced by a number of countries around the world. This little diatribe by me, discussion, whatever you want to call it, could also be paraphrased, but Trump promised there'd be more Russian AKs, right? We all know that there was never a specific promise from now President Donald Trump to do anything that had to do with us being able to start getting Segas again. Never came up. Never once came up. But as someone who spends a lot of time watching YouTube videos and reading internet forums and various social media about the AK platform, a lot of folks just had this assumption that, hey, he was going to be great friends with Vladimir Putin. They were going to have free and fair trade, and that was going to also mean that we were going to start seeing Izmash products getting pumped out of the factory and coming to the U.S., either straight to the U.S. or via somebody like an Arsenal with the SGL series. Guess what? So far, it hasn't happened. July 2017, and right now, there's no indications that we're going to be lifting sanctions on the Russians on any of these things. In fact, just last month, the Molat company was added to this list. And so you're going to see less and less. My concern is that somehow if it comes clear that there's a financial association between the companies that own Izmash and Molat, and some suggested ties to personal finances of Vladimir Putin, then there you go. All this ammo that's made in the Ukraine and Russia, that could be an issue. So there you have it. The state of current affairs when it comes to Russia, nothing's changed. Relationships, if anything, have gotten worse, and they're probably going to continue to get worse as we find out more and more that Russia did indeed have their fingers in all different parts of our campaign, and that they weren't tied to any party and that they didn't get anybody elected, but they were certainly meddling, and that's going to make it hard to open up more free trade with somebody with that kind of thing going on. At least in the short term. Looking at Poland, Poland joined NATO. I mean, the bottom line, folks, is they converted some stuff to 5.56, but kind of got out of the AK business because of that. Yugoslavia still going strong with the NPAPs. Romania still going strong. We're seeing the Wassers come over. It'd be nice if we could see some different versions of Romanian rifles, maybe a next step up, if you will, in terms of fit and finish. But they crank out what they do, and good products. Arsenal out of Bulgaria is, to my knowledge, the one of the three new built rifles you can get in the AKM semi-auto category. So that's it. You've got three. Trace. It's not a pretty picture, and you got to hope that our political situation with those three countries remain good. Now, I'm not aware of us having any problems with the Romanians. I'm not aware of problems with Serbia. I'm not aware of problems with Bulgaria. But we do have a president who's vowed to seek what he calls fair trade agreements. I think in a lot of cases there are unfair trade agreements, but if you make them fair for the United States, that means they're going to seem less fair for the other country involved. And that very well could involve a Bulgaria or Romania or somebody, Serbia, for example. So, but at least for now, those areas seem okay. But the thought of getting Russian AKs into the United States because Donald Trump's president, I think it was crazy to think that was going to be on his agenda to begin with. I know there was a lot of hope out there, So, what do? What are we left with? When I look at the situation as it is, the United States manufacturers, for the most part, the ones that people that are more into the AK platform, I'm not talking entry level, are gonna look for custom builds and part kits as opposed to an American-made AK-47-74. Now, we've had some people come into the market. There's been a lot of negative things said about the Century products, Century builds. I'm staying out of that particular thing right now because there's no such thing as one way Century does things. They import some things, they add compliance parts to others, and they complete build from the ground up with other stuff. And they also do kit builds. So putting that aside for a second, I know that right now, for example, Riley Defense has announced that they're only going to use forged trunnions instead of metal injection molding or whatever they were doing. So that's a step ahead. Palmetto State putting out a lot of AKs. I'm hearing some good things about them, but I'm also hearing the same thing when you use these non-forged parts in important places like the trunnions, it becomes a problem. So people are buying some of these rifles, and the first thing they're doing is replacing the bolt group. I'm not here to criticize that, but a lot of times a guy goes and buys a rifle for what he thinks is a good price, spends another $300 to $400 making it the way he likes, and then says, hey, this is as good as an Arsenal. This is as good as a Vepr. And you know what? It probably should be because you just spent the same amount of money putting it together. And that's pretty typical that we see in what I call our hobby world. What's next? I don't know. I really don't know. Geopolitically, we just can't tell. But the best hope we have is that we will be able to still get the parts kits in, and we'll get more companies that know how to assemble these things correctly with some kind of consistency. So you can say, hey, if I buy an AK from XYZ company, there's a really good chance that I know what I'm getting, and flaws or bad model examples are going to be pretty rare because they have consistency in the way they do them. You can run the gamut. I'm seeing some of these customs now going for well over $2,000, and that's kind of where I kind of draw the line on AKs. I think the most I'm willing to spend at this point, and it'd have to be something I really wanted, would probably be about $1,400. I popped $1,100 for an Arsenal last year, and I haven't felt that was a bad deal at all, but I'm just saying you can kind of keep going, and part of the fun of AKs has always been that they're relatively cheap to shoot. Let's not ruin that by making them $3,000 platforms. Very well might happen. For you guys with the Segas, for you guys with the Mahdi's, for you guys with the SGLs from Arsenal, some of these builds that are out there, hang on to them because we're not going to get them. We've seen the same thing with Chinese. For years, nobody wanted Norinco. That was like, well, I can get it. That's why I like it. But, I really want an Eastern Bloc AK. Well, people give their left arm for decent shaped Norinco stuff now, Chinese made. So, again, it runs the table. I expect that at some point, unless we end up getting in such bad relations with Russia that we go to war, things tend to be cyclical and we could see some changes. But again, when they talk about trade relations between our countries, they're talking about stuff like wheat, energy resources, and other raw materials, things that affect a lot of people. AK-47, AKM-47 semi-auto copy exports from a company like Ishmash, which I think last year was a $300 million company, so not a giant company by any stretch. We're not talking about a big part of the U.S. or the Russian economy, so I wouldn't expect any changes soon unless there's a change to the policy of Russia and how they handle their situation with neighboring countries, because that's what instituted all of this. So best advice I can give for now is to shoot arms you have. Hope for best, and when opportunity comes to buy Soviet AK rifle, make sure you do, comrade. Do not delay, because if you do, you will be sorry.